Shabbat Shalom. I'm Cantor David Proser from Kempsville Conservative Synagogue, Kehillat Bet HaMidrash in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And this is our Torah portion commentary for Shabbat of October 31st, 2020, corresponding to the 13th day of the Hebrew month of Cheshvan in the year 5781. As usual, we thank Rabbi Joseph Prauser, Rabbi Adam Rosenbaum, Rabbi Joyce Newmark, and the United Synagogue Torah Spark series for their various teachings and publications on this week's Parsha. This Shabbat we read the Parsha of LeCHA, the third Parsha in the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. It begins on page 69 of the Eitz Chaim Chumash and page 45 of the Hertz. With this Parsha, the Torah narrative shifts from the history of the world to the history of Israel. Avram and his wife Sarai are now the main characters in this biblical text. God commands Avram to leave his home, his birthplace, and his father's house, and go to the land I will show you, where I will make you a great nation and bless you. They leave Haran for Canaan, where God appears to him again, reaffirming their covenantal bond and promising him the land as his own. When they arrive in Canaan, Avram travels through the country, pitching his tent and constructing altars, especially one at Bethel. After some time in Canaan, a famine forces Avram, Sarai, and his nephew Lot to travel further south to Egypt. There, Sarai is taken into Pharaoh's household, where, at Avram's express instructions, she identifies herself not as his wife, but as his sister. While she is there, God afflicts Pharaoh and his household with plagues as the truth is revealed. Dismayed from this deception, Pharaoh returns her to her husband and bestows great wealth upon them. Avram and Sarai, along with Lot, return to Bethel. A conflict develops between the servants of Lot and the servants of Avram over grazing land. At Avram's suggestion, the two kinsmen part and go their separate ways, with Lot choosing to settle near Sodom. God renews his covenant with Avram, promising him the land in perpetuity and a legacy of innumerable descendants. In a conflict pitting four local kings, including the king of Sodom, against five others, Lot is captured. Despite the earlier falling out with his nephew, Avram takes an armed force of 318 troops to rescue him. Upon his victory and upon Lot's safe return, Avram exchanges diplomatic pleasantries with Melchizedek, a Canaanite king and priest, on the winning side, but refuses material compensation or any spoils of war, both to avoid political indebtedness and to emphasize that it was God's providence that secured his success. God's repeated promises of blessing, land, and progeny are followed by a dramatic covenant in which God informs Avram that his descendants will go down into slavery in Egypt, but after that, they will be redeemed and finally occupy the land that God has promised to him. Avram and Sarai had been childless, and he fears that he will die childless. But God promises him that his descendants will be great and numerous. Because Sarai appeared to be barren, she encourages Avraham to take her Egyptian servant Hagar as a surrogate wife in order to bear children. God approves of this. Hagar becomes pregnant, then runs away after Sarai treats her cruelly. God convinces Hagar to return to the household, where she gives birth to a son, Ishmael. God again reaffirms the covenant, changing Avram's name to Avraham and Sarai's name to Sarah, signifying their elevated status and chosenness. He also commands Abraham to circumcise himself and all his male descendants. Circumcision becomes the symbol of the covenant. God also assures Abraham of the birth of a second son from Sarah, to be named Isaac, who will serve as heir to the covenant. At this, the elderly Abraham laughs at the idea. In response to Abraham's paternal concern, "Oh, that Ishmael might live by your favor," God also bestows a blessing on Abraham's firstborn. "He shall be the father of 12 chieftains, and I will make of him a great nation." The Haftorah for this week is from the book of Isaiah, verses 40:27 to 41:16, beginning on page 95 of the Eitz Chaim Chumash and page 60 of the Hertz. Isaiah, the great prophet of consolation, reminds the exiled children of Israel of the charge given to their forefather Abraham at the opening of our Torah portion. "Be thou a blessing unto all the families of the earth." Israel, suffering in exile, might well despair of the fulfillment of this divine promise, or even of God's remembering that promise. The prophet stills such questioning. Isaiah emphasizes God's power and providential guidance to alleviate the nation's mood of despair and fear. In God, Israel has the source of unending strength. God will not fail to carry out his great purposes for mankind through Israel, the children of Abraham, and Israel shall rejoice in the vindication of their faith in God. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so that you'll always know when we post new content. Shabbat Shalom.